Welcome to Shawn and Carter Have a Podcast. My name is Shawn,
And my name's Carter.
and we're going to fly through this. We're not doing any hour and a half bull crap this week.
No, I mean, clearly people were very upset with that episode, evidenced by the enormous amount of follow up and email and tweets we got from
Yeah,
that
thanks,
episode.
guys.
Yeah, what I think is funny is in that episode we were kind of like, you guys were supposed to tell us stuff, and you didn't, and we're quite upset, so.
Well, they took it to heart, and they told us everything we could want to know.
Yes. So, well done, everyone. There was an excellent discussion on Twitter in follow up to the episode, which, if you'd like to check out, look in either of Sean or my timelines because it filled both of them up to the brim. Moving on. Portal 2. Just gotta go.
Yeah, I mentioned to Carter right before we recorded because he's been out of contact and he did not know. There's some free DLC for Portal 2 that includes a number of things, best of which are new levels for Atlas and Peabody,
Our favorite
our
robot
alter
companions.
egos.
Yes. Well, I was Atlas.
Atlas.
Atlas. So that's very exciting. How much is it? Is it just a couple levels?
I really don't know. I think it's one more section of levels. So like we had 5 sections of levels.
Hmm.
I think it's just another section. So it's probably like 10 rooms or something.
Well, no promises, but I would like to play me some Portal 2 DLC.
Yeah, I think we'll have to make that happen. And then one of the other things that they added, the DLC is called peer review, and the other thing that they added is when you are looking at the different chambers when you're about to enter them, you now have a metric that shows you how your time compares to other people on a leaderboard.
Interesting.
So, like, if you are stuck playing by yourself, you don't have any friends, you can at least see how well you're doing against the rest of the world.
That clock would have just been getting like redder and worse in that one room where we kept leaning ourselves against the wall to get across the other side.
Or the one where we found the laser disc.
Let's moving on. If you guys haven't seen our playthrough of Portal 2 co-op, you should go check it out.
It got so bad at one point that I started making episodes that included all of the good stuff and then other like B-sides of the episodes that included all of the failure. That's how bad it was.
And there was plenty.
Yeah.
There was plenty. Not that it was too difficult, just that Sean and I.
No, we never stopped to look anything up.
That's true.
We always eventually figured it out.
Because I think there are a lot of cheaters out there who went and consulted John Green's, not John, Hank Green.
Hank
He's the
Greens.
John Green's not fun. I don't like John Green. Hank Green's playthrough when it came out, and
I understand how you can't like John Green.
we'll talk about it next week. Talk about it next
Okay.
week.
Okay.
He's not my favorite.
Because he's not sciencey.
He's not my favorite.
I don't like when Hank Green sings. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Well, I don't like when John Green talks. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It's fine.
Ouch.
It's fine.
We love the Vlog Brothers though.
Yes, love them. I just
We just hate them.
moving on. I think we know what this episode's gonna be titled. So Sean, while I was out and away, out of contact,
Not in Richmond.
not in Richmond, I was in the part of the world that's not in Richmond. You recorded a video with your lovely wife.
I can't not say that anymore, my lovely wife. It's your fault.
And you were trying to convince me to not hate Game of Thrones.
At least not dismiss it as silly.
Okay, maybe silly was the wrong word. Maybe silly. It's not silly.
It's not silly.
I don't think it's silly.
It's very serious, Carter.
I'm sure that I don't even know enough about it to make fun of it. So maybe that's a big glaring like error on
Okay,
my own
okay.
part.
So it's been
So
300 years since the world has seen magic. There is a barren, icy land to the north that they have to protect a giant wall because there are scary things, again, they have not seen for 300 years, but they believe that they're there. And then to the south is a barren, like African like land where a bunch of nomadic people, like savages, rule. And they're sandwiched in the middle. And the king is about to bequeath his throne to someone. And all of the regions, all the surrounding kingdoms are vying for it. That's the premise.
I mean, doesn't that just sound silly? Okay, like so let me reframe my I
Good,
don't think
good.
it's
I'm
silly.
looking forward to this.
Yes, I don't think it's silly. I don't think a lot about it because I'm not interested to see it. That's why I'm being dismissive is that it's just not doing anything for me. Like the things I've seen about it. So no, I don't think it's silly. I nothing it. I just like I don't feel compelled to see it.
Well,
I mean,
I'm trying to externally compel you.
I understand that.
I have not read the books. I'm not.
The books are really long looking.
Alicia's read some of them. I'm not way into the culture. I'm not like trying to figure out like what the differences are or like I'm not running out to buy the DVD set. But the ten episode series that they broadcast was very good.
Like so one of my best friends was really into the books and I think he's watching the series and he was like going through it with me. And maybe it was the books that turned me off. But he made analogies to Tolkien in ways that did not make me want to read it. Like so maybe I don't want to read the books. Maybe I do want to see the TV series. I don't know, but it's like he spends like 4 pages talking about like what they're eating.
Yeah, I didn't get other than the aesthetics, I didn't really get a whole lot of Tolkien from it. Because like I said, like we explained in the video, there's no magic to be seen, although it's kind of obvious that it must exist somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing like orcs or walking trees or any of that stuff. There's just humans.
The connection that this guy Ed was trying to make was more that not the not like when we talk about Tolkien like Tolkien universe stuff, but like Tolkien as an author. Like he would spend like 4 pages talking about what the side of a hill looked like. Apparently, who's the author of Game of Thrones? I don't.
George R. R. Martin.
He will do similar
No
things.
relation.
No, none. Are you sure? Is it a pen name?
I'm pretty sure.
Did Alicia write it?
How did you know?
I thought so. He would spend Tolkien. He would go to Tolkien lengths on things like what people are wearing or what people are eating, things like that. Which
Well,
sounds
if that stuff translated into the series, I don't know about
just into great like that food looks great.
it. There was some pretty good looking food, I remember.
All right. Yeah, if there's an opportunity for me to see the first episode and I don't have to pay for it in any way, I would probably watch it.
I think that would be a good test.
Right?
If you're not interested to watch more after the first episode, then you're not going to be into it because the first episode was I like to judge by pilots, and it was a pretty good first episode.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
For instance, Breaking Bad, best pilot I've ever seen.
best.
Best.
Okay.
I have never been more intrigued to watch a show after I watched the pilot for that show.
Okay. I could go with you on that. I'd have to like reopen the book on a lot of stuff, but that's probably true.
Hey, speaking of reopening the books, we didn't talk about this, but Arrested Development.
Oh, Shawn, how did we forget to put that on the list?
Well, I put it's in five things. You don't know it yet, but at a panel earlier this week, Mitch Hurwitz, along with the entire cast, mentioned that not only is a movie coming out in early 2013, but leading up to the movie, they're going to do a 10 episode series arc to reintroduce all of the characters to get you ready for the film.
I cannot express in words or noises how excited I am.
It's insane. I cannot like everyone's been talking about the movie for so long, and they even mentioned in the panel like the reason that there was that rumor out there that Michael Cera was one of the holdouts, like that was the reason that the movie wasn't happening, was because they spun that rumor.
didn't see that. I've been
They
hating
did
on.
that on purpose.
Oh, they're so smart.
Aren't they amazing?
I hated him.
Right. And he thought it was hilarious
Damn
because he knew that that was what was going to happen, that people were going to be mad at Michael. And he was like, "Oh, that's fine."
it.
At the panel, they were like, "So what's everyone been up to?" And everyone looked at Michael, and they were like, "Yeah, what have you been doing, Michael?" He's the one with all the work. So here's the part of the podcast where we blame all of the stuff we just lost on Michael Cera.
Yeah, that Michael Cera guy, he's a total beep.
He walked in to the room that you're in and turned off your wireless. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I know. I hate him.
And
Hate him.
then the recording glitched, and we just lost the last 15 or 20 minutes of us babbling.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah. Although, while he was messing around with my wireless, he also sent a pack of wild motorcyclists by, so we lost that.
Damn it, that was like the best thing we had.
That was going to be the promo, was just the noise of the motorcycles. That was it.
Here, let's replicate it. So, if you weren't here, you missed what?
So, yeah, my studio audience and Sean's studio audience. I don't know if you know this, but we both have studio audiences when we record.
I've got two people in mine. They're licking each other right now. It's adorable.
I've got my cell phone. I have some cats. Um, yeah, you missed out on some good stuff. So, sorry about that, everyone. And like Sean said, we're not going to pretend like we didn't lose that. So we're going to cover some things, but it might seem like we're a little business-like covering them since we literally just talked about it.
So, bullet point, video games.
Video games. Um, yes, video games can be scarier than movies. By and large, the scariest movies are probably scarier than most of the scary video games.
The best of the scary movies.
Yes, like one that we'll talk about later in this podcast, and that you were supposed to watch, and I told you it was on Netflix streaming, and it was for me, but it's not anymore.
Yeah, what the hell, Netflix?
Yeah, you know, Netflix. You and
What
Mike.
are you? Are you Quickster or are you Netflix?
I think Michael Cera had something to do with it.
Probably.
Probably. Well, you used to be able to watch A Tale of Two Sisters on Netflix. Now you can only
As
get it.
recently as last week.
As last week, now you can only get it through Quickster. So,
Thanks
well,
for ruining our plans, Netflix.
well, Sean found a copy of it on YouTube. I've noticed that a lot of Asian horror movies are found in their entirety on YouTube. Did they just not care?
I don't know. I don't know what that's about.
There are some really good ones. Like after the podcast last week, I was doing some research on Asian horror because we're gonna talk about it, and there were a couple movies I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time, and I'm like, oh my god, the whole thing is here on YouTube.
I it and that's really weird for that film because that it makes note on the Wikipedia page that that is the first Korean horror film that is ever screened in American theaters.
And it was the most successful Korean horror movie of all time, like in terms of gross. It made like $100 million.
And it was gross.
It was gross. But anyway, yeah, video games, movies, great discussion on Twitter. Sean and I are probably gonna, when we think of them, if we think of them, throw out Twitter discussion questions after a podcast on Saturday related to what we've been talking about. So.
And we mentioned that Ron sent us a very nice email about the premise of a horror video game versus a horror movie.
Yes, and I mentioned to Sean and his cats that I hope that the thoughts that Ron had will feed into his project of making a scary Minecraft map.
I wonder if he has a name.
Oh, for it? Good
Yeah.
question. I would be interested to know. I think he was tentatively calling it Fear, but there's already a game called that.
Really? I've never. Oh, yeah, that game.
That game. Fear and Fathrir.
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 I never played any except for the first game.
I played the first one and the 2 expansion packs. They weren't great.
That's too bad.
Yeah, but they were fine. Lots more shooting and stuff. Uh,
Yeah, it's a lot of run and gun in that game.
yeah. It seems like it's even more in the later ones from what in Fathrir from what I saw in Justin, is that his review?
Justin?
Justin? That's not his name. Jared? Jamie? On your channel. On SPM Gaming.
Oh. I don't. Someone reviewed Fear?
Fathrir.
Oh, Jordan talked about it.
Jordan. That's
Yes.
right.
He didn't review it. He was
Well, he
kind of
talked.
previewing the stupidness of involving a Call of Duty style meta game.
Yeah. Anyway, and also in the realm of scary stuff, we talked about American Horror Story, which you should go see. It's
It
on
is on FX,
.com. So go check it out. It looks great. The guys
and
from
we're
Glee did it.
and we're going to talk about it in the next couple episodes because we'll probably start watching it.
Yes, definitely. Like this is a month of horror, and it just so happens that Ryan Murphy et al. Decided maybe they'd make a horror series, so we're going to watch it.
I just hope that Kurt shows up and sings something really high pitched.
He better not throw it like he did.
You haven't watched for over a season. You shut up.
Well, excuse me. Excuse me. Um,
I
and
hope that was a reference to the Fisher King.
it was. And I'm gonna wrap this up by saying that if you're a fan of the awesome 19 Horrors movie, 19. Oh my God, I shouldn't drink as much when we're recording this podcast. 1980s horror comedy Creep Show. I will be watching it at midnight tonight at a very nice local movie theater.
That's fun.
I'll talk about it next time.
I hope there's a turnout.
Yeah, if it's just me, I'll talk about
That'll
that.
that'll be the real creep show.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably tweet it. If I'm the only one there, I'll definitely be tweeting it.
It's you and like a couple making out.
Yeah, yeah. But I'll sit.
Awkward.
If there's a couple in there, I will sit down right next to them.
And be like, hey, you want some popcorn?
Hey, or like, hey, I'm gonna be live tweeting this with the hashtag SCHP. Would you like to join me?
We could make a tweet up of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm now forgetting. I think our exhortations to not tweet at us so much when you're talking about the podcast. I think some of them got cut off when Michael Sarah messed with my internet.
Yeah, if you're gonna tweet about our episode, and please do, leave us out of the tweet so that you have more space to tweet, and just use the hashtag SCHP, and we'll be able to find them that way.
Yes, so if we put a discussion question up later today or this evening, or if you're gonna live tweet listening to this, which is great, go ahead and put SCHP as the hashtag. You can let us know if you're doing it. You can like tweet at us like, "Hey, I'm gonna be live tweeting." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'll be watching you," but you don't have to every time.
And if there's anyone our age who was really, really scared by Doom or Quake when they were a kid, I'd love to talk about that some more.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Um,
I remember my heart beating pretty fast the first time I was playing Quake.
I've never played Quake.
You can't go back. I mean, you can't go back to 1996 and pretend that you're playing that for the first time. But it's an experience when you're that age playing that frightening of a game for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, moving on. Moving on. This is you'll all excuse me if I get a little choked up, but we got to talk about some news that happened this week.
I don't think there's anything that I don't learn from Twitter anymore. Any major breaking news, it always happens on Twitter.
You know the thing that everybody mentioned this, but the thing that is really sort of poignant about Steve Jobs passing away and all of us learning about it on Twitter was I learned about it on my iPhone.
Yeah.
So Steve Jobs died
Yeah.
at 56.
I I've read that he was dead before. Like, how many times have people been like, Steve Jobs died? And I saw it trending on Twitter. I just
Yeah,
saw Steve Jobs and I saw like I sad.
yeah.
And I went to the Google News page and it was the number one thing and I was like, damn it.
The first thing I saw, because I follow a ton of people who are like follow directly a ton of people who are plugged into Apple and Steve Jobs, and
Yeah.
the first thing I saw was not the AP official, some one person saying AP reports Steve Jobs passes away at 56, and I'm like, nope, false, not true. This is just like 2 months ago when CBS Breaking News or whatever tweeted that Steve Jobs died, and then it just like kept showing up and kept showing up from different sources, and then it was just like it slowly dawned on me, like, oh no, he's really dead.
Sad, sad time for the computing world.
Yeah, it really is. Google and Samsung, they're about to release ice cream sandwich, and they moved it. They were gonna release it, I think, on Thursday, and they just decided to move it to next week because it's just they didn't think it was appropriate.
Yeah.
So good for them. Good for them. I mean, I rag on Android and Google a lot, and I have problems with them and whatever, and there's competition, and that's great. But it's like,
But it's a healthy competition.
exactly. Yeah, I like that there's competition there. It's forcing them. It's forcing everyone to innovate. That's what Steve Jobs did his entire life. Was, you know, that think different campaign is like not. That's not just marketing. Um, because a lot of what they're talking about has nothing to do with Apple. It just has to do with America and innovators and the human spirit. And like, yes, people do people can push the world forward with like the things they do and the stuff that they make.
I know you're not a big Ayn Rand or Ayn Rand reader,
Now,
but Steve Jobs is probably the closest to an Ayn Rand character that I've ever heard of.
that's true. I think that,
He just like didn't need to play by the rules. He just operated on a different level.
absolutely, absolutely. And well, one thing that's really cool, like a lot of people are going to talk about the contribution that he's left to the world, and it's significant. And it's not just him personally, but without him, we probably wouldn't have seen things unfold the way that they did. Uh, but there are some really interesting things about Apple and him that a lot of people don't know about because Apple is so secretive. But Steve Jobs knew that he wasn't going to be there forever, and even the great people that he was working with wouldn't be there forever at Apple. So in 2007, I think he asked a very brilliant professor from I think Stanford to come to Apple. I think this is a guy who specializes in like social psychology and workplace sort of stuff, and asked him to set up something that they call internally Apple University. And what they did was, over the course of like 18 months, they deconstructed everything about the company and basically what makes great products great. What does it take to achieve what they achieve? And this will be a resource for the company as it moves forward to impart that knowledge on new people. Like, how do we have to behave culturally, and what sort of processes do we have, and how do we need to work, like what ways do we need to work to achieve things like the iPhone or the iMac? Like, how do we get there?
And
So,
did they figure all that out?
well, they're certainly not telling. um
For a second, I thought you were going to tell me that they invited like a physicist to come and download Steve Jobs into a computer.
Maybe like Futurama style, and it'll just be like a floating head.
Exactly. How awesome would that have been if he had been the first one?
Yeah, I think I think one of the things that really hit a lot of people who follow Apple is that he moved into this chairman role, and we're like, well, we know that he's not irresponsible for anything at the company anymore, and I think, like, intellectually, we got that, right? But
Hmm.
it's like, but he's still there, you know? It's like, it's sort of like losing a parent almost, It's like you maybe moved out and you're on your own and you're independent. Apple is going to do their thing, but it's like, but your parents are still there.
You're gonna feel the influence of his work and contribution for a very long time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's a big deal. And there have been a couple of writers and pundits out there who have been basically saying all of this attention is silly and Steve Jobs just made things and sold them and they don't understand why people are so upset. And you all could go straight to hell.
And those people should read the obituary published by The Onion of Steve Jobs, which claims that Steve Jobs was the last guy in America who knew what the frick he was doing.
Yep, he had his stuff together. You can include the curse words for the words that we
Yeah,
substitute.
go read that obituary because we can't say it uncensored on our podcast.
Certainly not. Certainly not.
But The Onion got it right.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. There have been a lot of really great stories out. I've tweeted a lot of them. I will
They've
probably
been all
continue.
over the front page of Google News every day ever since, and it's not just like and the world continues to mourn Steve Jobs. It's like here's another great thing from 2006 that Steve Jobs did. Did you
Yep.
forget about this? Like he was amazing. And that's great stuff. I'm glad to see that stuff trending.
It's a good moment in our national discourse, like that people could actually step back and not just say like Steve Jobs was a great CEO, one of the best CEOs ever, but also say like Steve Jobs also had a very interesting personal philosophy and really and in things to say about life. And here's some of them.
Hmm. Watch some
Uh,
of his TED Talks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and watch. There's some great videos of him when he was under 30, just like well, that Ayn Rand point is a good one. Just like him, like so full of energy, like he could explode. Like
Hmm.
there's so much he wants to do and accomplish and achieve, and it's just like the one thing that I will point out. I'm finding it now so I can actually email it to Shawn because I do this all the time and don't email him these things. Is there's a great, very short video that people can go watch. It's that Think Different video from like 1997. Uh, Here's to the Crazy Ones
Yeah.
that Richard Dreyfuss narrated. Steve Jobs did a recording of that narration, and there's a video of it with him narrating it out there.
Nice. I have never seen slash heard that.
I am emailing it to Shawn, and then I will tweet it when this episode is over.
I will also put it in the link I will put it in the info for the YouTube version of this, which I'm now posting this directly to YouTube. I I was doing the promos because when we started the podcast, I still had the 15-minute limit on my account. And it suddenly dawned on me that I haven't had that for months and I still was posting promos. So now I'm just posting the entire thing. That makes more sense.
Which might be tied into why so many more people were talking about it.
Could have been. Could have
Could have
been.
been, could have been. Well, in less sad news, but related to Apple, they released a product, actually several products, just a few days ago.
But not an iPhone 5.
I have, yeah, okay.
That was in the first. I just say that because that was in the first paragraph of like every single thing that was like the iPhone 4S has been, but not the iPhone 5.
If
Like they just had to point out, like, by the way, that rumor is false.
Well, it's like the thing is, the iPhone 5, with quotation marks around it, is everything that's inside of the iPhone 4S, but it's called an iPhone 5 and maybe would have looked a little bit different. And I don't understand why people are so like, oh, this is a huge disappointment. And it's like, this is exactly what almost everyone was asking for, except for the screen. And I'm sorry, everybody is wrong on the screen. I don't want a bigger screen. I so I think this got caught out me mentioning the name of my best friend Ed. I think Michael Sarah messed with that, but he and I talk about this sort of stuff all the time. And he was asking me like, "Oh, an iPhone 5, like what's going on with that?" And I'm like, "Well, there are all these rumors and blah blah blah." And one of them is that it'll have a 4-inch screen. And he's like, "Ooh, that'd really make me want to get an iPhone. I'd love a 4-inch screen."
What
And I'm
is
like,
the size of the phone, the
3
screen now?
3.5. And I said, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of rumors that it's going to be 4 inches or maybe even bigger than 4 inches. And I said, if it's 4 inches, there's a big likelihood that I will not get it because it's just too darn big, and I don't want a phone that large. I don't think it's not comfortable. And Apple agrees with me, so thank you, Apple. I'm
I agree with you too.
there's a
The I don't think my dad would because he can't see for crap, but I like my screen size, and I know that my screen size. I think my screen size is the same as an iPhone.
yeah. I think that our phones are basically
Same form factor.
yeah. Like you can. I love the way I've felt a Droid Incredible too. I love how it fits in your hand. It fits in your hand very comfortably. And someone did a really great little. They did this with the with the tablet with Metro. People are clearly thinking a lot about this. How far your thumb can reach when you're holding something from the side. Like
Exactly.
people are really aware of that right now. And with an iPhone, it is comfortable to reach everything but the very most extreme far corner from where you're holding it. You know, if you're holding it in your left hand, it's comfortable to hit basically the entire screen. With a 4-inch form factor, if you want to reach the very far, like if you're holding it in your left hand, you want to reach the right corner, down at the bottom where the buttons are, like you have to extend your thumb, like overextend your thumb.
Or use your other hand, and who wants to do that?
Oh, whatever. If you're like walking and you need to use one hand, and you got a venti caramel macchiato.
Yeah, what you're talking about with the Windows tablet is they made a keyboard that instead of like imagine you're holding the tablet horizontally, if on a phone like the keyboard would pop up from the bottom and it would be like the whole way across QWERTY keyboard. The tablet, since your thumbs are only going to go in a couple of inches from each side, they've split. It kind of looks like one of those keyboards that's supposed to be better for your hands and avoid carpal. The keyboard is split in half and it's on either side of the screen.
Yes,
That's a cool idea. I like that.
it is cool. They have that in iOS 5 for the iPad.
Good. It should be a thing that stays.
Yeah, it's a little. You have a little more flexibility with it on an iPad in that you have a universal keyboard throughout the OS, and whenever you want, you can push a button and it splits it, and then you can move it anywhere on the screen, up or down. So if you need it
Cool.
higher or lower, like to expose content, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Uh, iPhone 4S. Oh, and also Christmas shoppers. All of the prices on all of their products dropped about $50. So if you want to get someone an iPod Nano, it's about, I mean, like 20, 30, $40 cheaper now.
Woohoo!
Woo, woo, woo. And iOS 5 is coming out and all this great stuff. It's holiday season. It's time to give Apple this is where they make most of their money. So, iPhone 4S. Am so Shawn, would you get a 4S
Tell me why I should get a 4S.
from where you are now with your Incredible?
Sure.
Oh boy.
No. Okay, if I already had an iPhone 4,
Okay. So for
why would I not upgrade?
so Shawn, you should get an iPhone. You should at least get an iPhone 4 from your Incredible because
Yeah,
you'll
I
like
know.
it
I
better.
know.
And
When
it's
the upgrade comes around, it will be iPhone 4 or better.
right. If you get an iPhone 4, I think what it's like. Well, the thing is, this might not matter for you, but if you want to get an iPhone 4, I believe they're only making them in 8 gigabyte. Period. You can get it. You either get it black or white, 8 gigabytes, $99.
That's fine. I don't care.
Okay, I need a little more storage on mine, but they've got this iCloud thing, and you can stream stuff through it.
Yeah,
So
I,
maybe
I stream almost everything that I use, so
right. So
that's
maybe not a big deal. I like having 32 because I keep a whole bunch of podcasts on mine, and they take up a lot of room. So yes, obviously. Me, am I gonna get a 4S? I don't know. So it has a lot of good spec bumps, but like part of the whole thing about Apple products is like, well, who cares about spec bumps? I just want it to I want it to be beautiful and work the
you
way
want the next innovation.
right. Or it's like I want, I need a reason to get it over this one. Because if iOS 5 works on here, I don't really care about the spec bumps if everything works beautifully, you know? It's like,
Hmm.
well then yeah, but this one's a little bit faster and it can do graphics a little bit better. That's you know, the checklist wars, it's like, well the Atrix 4G has this and the Samsung Galaxy 2S has that and it's like, yeah, but how does it work? How does everything fit together? So, I think what I'll say is I'm going to go to an Apple store and play with a 4S when it comes out and see if it is noticeably better of an experience than my 4. Because otherwise, I'm not going to lay down that money. Because I'd have to get one unsubsidized. I'd have to pay the full price for one.
Which I'm sure many Mac followers will.
Yep. But
No questions asked.
no questions asked. I won't do that unless I have a really good reason. Because I could spend that money could be going toward my Air.
When are they going to make a cell phone, Apple or anyone else, that bends?
I don't know.
Like not in half or anything, just like a flexible material. I feel like it's got to be possible.
Um, I don't know. The glass that's used to make the iPhone and some other similar phones is has the tensile strength to bend, but it would take a lot of force. And so you'd have to there'd have to be some sort of innovation there
I
that
don't want it to bend. Like I don't want to sit there bending my phone. I just don't want to break it.
right.
I want it to be able to give when I like if it's in my back pocket and I sit down.
I don't know. I would bet that Apple is working on things like that. I know
I
that they
bet
have
Steve Jobs was working on it, and now we'll never get it.
that's an interesting point about Steve Jobs. So
How many ideas went with him?
he had his name was on a lot of patents, a lot of patents. So he was involved in a lot of stuff. So regardless of that, Apple is frequently personified in the form of Steve Jobs. It's like Steve. It's not like Apple unveils new iPhone. It's like Steve Jobs unveils new iPhone, right?
Yeah, it's probably best for Pixar that they have their own name, or else they would be called like the Steve Jobs Movie Company.
Right. So like a consequence of that is like people who love Apple and buy into that whole Steve Jobs thing. It's like, yeah, I love my iPhone, or like I'm so glad that Steve Jobs didn't bump the screen size up to 4 inches, right?
Because
And
if he had done it,
right, or
we'd
but
be stuck.
right, or like people who hate Apple. It's like Steve Jobs is the reason why I can't put apps on my phone that aren't from the App Store.
Meh.
So something that everyone's gonna have to be really careful of, and probably won't, is every decision that Apple makes from now on. Is it going to be like, well, if Steve Jobs were here,
Yeah.
I don't think there's no way Steve Jobs was making every decision at the company. I'm sure he was intimately involved in a lot of stuff and that he had final say on things, but it's like ideas came up and he was just part of that process. It's not like he decided, he might not have even decided to make a phone. Someone might have just had like a good idea, like, hey, we should do a phone. And he's like, yeah, work on that. And then they did some stuff, and eventually we had an iPhone. And he might not have woken up one night and been like, Lauren, or whatever his wife's name, an iPhone. That's what the world needs. Let's get working on this.
Are you sure? Because I think in the biopic of his life, that's the way that scene is going to unfold.
Walter Isaacson has already been asked to option the biography.
Oh yeah.
It took a day.
I wonder who. I wonder who's going to play him.
Oh boy.
Probably Justin Timberlake or someone unlikely.
Well, I would love to hear all of the listeners' ideas on that. So if you want to tweet who you think will be Steve Jobs or the other major Apple players, like Bill Gates, Steve
Oh
Wozniak,
yeah, we
tweet it at
yes,
us.
was.
Yeah, tweet us who you think those people are going to be with hashtag SCHP.
I'm excited.
I'll tweet some too. I, I don't have any ideas right now, but I'm a cooking of something up.
And obviously David Fincher should direct it. And Aaron Sorkin should write the screenplay.
And Philip Seymour Hoffman will be in there somewhere.
We'll just get our dream team together.
Exactly. All right. Well, uh, farewell, Steve Jobs. I was very sad. I cried once last week, but it wasn't when Steve Jobs died. I was upset, but I didn't cry.
I was just shocked. I like took a minute or two before I told Alicia. Like I was just staring at the computer screen reading this article, and then I was finally like, Alicia, so Steve Jobs actually died this time.
Multiple people, including Shawn, either texted me or called me.
Yeah,
Like,
I did. You were the first person I reached out to.
yeah, like my mom called me even though she knew I was at this conference, and she was like, "I'm sorry, honey." I'm like, "It's okay. I'll be fine."
I would I would so much prefer that people in the world congregated around these type of people than the people that they do. Like freaking Miley Cyrus or something. Like I wish that the legions of the world would follow the great thinkers instead of the I don't even know how to describe them. The page 5 gossip creators.
Right. I was fine with people saying I was an Apple or a Steve Jobs fanboy because I'm like, yeah, I appreciate great design and I think that these are brilliant people and I want to model my life after them. And yet, there are probably 100 times as many people who are believers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get
Well, at
out of
least
my
most of them are kids, but some of them are not.
really not. And also, one final thing. Um, Shawn and I will work on this after the podcast because I don't we don't have time to like figure out where this should what the best option for this is. But the best thing that you could do besides leading a better life is making a donation to a cancer society. Steve Jobs died from a very rare form of pancreatic cancer. I'm sure everyone in our families has been touched by cancer, and if you feel motivated to, you should make a donation. So we'll
To
figure
a
out what that.
charity.
Yeah, to a charity. We'll figure out what that means, and there'll be a link somewhere. Okay. On that note, let's talk about horror movies.
Let's talk about something horrible.
Let's talk about something horrible. Um, and that would be Shawn and my fascination and enjoyment of Asian horror movies. Mm?
Mm.
Mm. Indeed. I got hooked on them back in '02. I think maybe you did before, but it was The Ring for me.
It was The Ring for me.
Oh
And we both agree that the American version of The Ring is better than the Asian version, I think.
man, I 100% agree.
I guess the biggest difference is the style of acting. In
Mm.
Asian horror, they tend to do a lot of, I don't know, quiet staring. Like the thing that is supposed to be scary, like the person that's supposed to be scary, does a lot of staring. Like you see it in Ringu, you see it in The Grudge, whatever the Japanese version of The Grudge is called.
Sure.
And yeah. And like that just puts me off a little bit. Like I expect a little bit more noise from the thing that's terrifying me. Like the girl in The Ring. She
Yeah.
makes scary noises.
Yeah, the sound design on The Ring was pretty fantastic. The if you're brave enough for it, and everyone in the comments, since I know this is going on YouTube, who says, "Oh, The Ring totally isn't scary. That girl coming out of TV, blah blah blah, whatever," just go unsubscribe right now. You're a bad person.
Wait, don't unsubscribe from my channel,
Oh no,
Carter.
well don't from the podcast. Whatever. Don't listen to the podcast anymore. Okay. Um,
Yes, The Ring I watched when I was, what, you said it came out in 2002?
yeah,
I guess I was like 17,
I was like 15. Yeah,
and I watched it by myself in a dark house after midnight.
not smart.
If you can do that and call it not scary, you're not human.
Yeah, you're then yes, then you're impacted by things in a different way than how we are. So fine,
It should be scary
it should be
at
scary.
that point.
It should be scary. Um, what I was going to drive people to do was there are plenty of things on YouTube where you can get a great idea of the sound design of this. It's when the movie is playing, it has this background noise. It's almost it's musical almost, but it's just go watch any of them. It's like what would happen if you took a like the sound a TV makes and then ran it through a synthesizer and like added like enhanced certain components and added certain things to it, and it ends up with this very otherworldly noise that's oddly familiar, and I think really just like really ups the scary up to 11.
Yeah, that movie had so much going for it. It was insane.
I mean, I'm thinking of it right now. Like so much of it has nothing to do with the scare factor for me, but like I'm thinking of those like awesome helicopter panning shots in Washington State where I don't know if they filmed it there, but that's where it's supposed to have taken place. Just like going over the trees and like just like following them around like these like long highways. It's just amazing. And the soundtrack was great. That violin soundtrack.
Yep,
Awesome. Awesome. Did Hans Zimmer do that?
I don't know.
Well, Gore Verbinski directed, and he also directed the original Pirates movie, and
Which was also so terrifying.
it was so scary. Oh goodness, Captain Jack Sparrow climbs out of television. Did a TV get back in two
It's
guys?
like, where's them gone?
Why is the rum gone? Less scary, we'll say. But after that, I got super into Asian movies because I was like, oh man, that movie was so scary. Let me look up. Was there Wikipedia in 2002? There must have been.
No, there was not.
There was not? Well, then
No,
whatever.
because Wikipedia came after YouTube, and YouTube didn't come along until 2005.
Wow, wow,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. By the way, The Ring, Hans Zimmer.
Yes! I knew it.
You win.
I win. Uh, so I went to whatever you would have gone to in 2002 to find out about
IMDb was around.
IMDb then, whatever. I went to the internet, I googled it, and I was like, man, The Ring is so great. I want to learn more about it. And I'm like, it's based on an Asian horror movie, and I got that. I got Ringu, and then The Grudge came out. I saw Ju-on and Ju-on 2, and now I've seen a lot of Asian horror movies, and there's something special about them. It's very different from American horror movies.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The concentration often seems more on the psychological than the gore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Saw wouldn't have no place in Asian cinema.
Yes. Like sometimes I wonder a little bit if if our fascination with Asian horror movies, if they're fascinated with ours, like, oh my god, it's like I've never seen anything like this. This guy like literally saws his foot off. Not that there aren't a lot of Asian horror movies with very disgusting things going on. There's plenty.
Yeah, go watch Audition.
Go watch Audition. Oh god.
Yeah, it's
Sean's
pretty bad.
seen it.
Yep.
If you've been following him for a long time, then maybe you watched it when he told you to.
Last year at this time.
Last year around this time. Um, yeah, Audition is a hard movie to watch.
Definitely, definitely. Very, very squeamish. And scenes that will make you squeam.
Yep, and it's kind of it comes way out of left field. Like if someone was like, "Hey, let's just watch this movie," and they put it in, didn't tell you anything about it, you'd be like, "Oh, it's like a sort of maybe like an indie Japanese comedy, romantic comedy,
Kind of
like
like Old Boy. Maybe that's one of their tenets. Like they're gonna set you up for something different from what they deliver.
maybe, yeah, because it's very oh boy, the first like whatever almost 40 minutes more, it's just like oh what's going on here? This doesn't seem like a horror movie at all, and then it's like oh there it is. There's something in that bag.
But the movie we watched this week doesn't really play around.
No, you know almost immediately that this is going to screw with your head.
It opens in A Tale of Two Sisters opens in a like in a psych ward or something,
Mm-hmm.
and the one sister is being released.
Yes. And then we move back in time. So we don't really know. All we know is like someone psych ward stuff. Who knows?
Something must have happened.
Something must have happened, right? And then we go back in time, and some amount, who knows? Some amount of time. We go back, and then we get treated to really gorgeous filmmaking, and flower wallpaper, which I I mentioned offline to Shawn. I'm like, yeah, and really scary flower wallpaper. Like, why did they have all that flower wallpaper? And Shawn explained it to me.
Yeah, the title of the film in Korean, the it's just two words, and the words mean rose flower, red lotus. And I guess those are the two sisters. They are rose flower and red lotus.
Yeah, Sumi and whatever Suyeon. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Suyan and Sumi.
yay, I got it. And their evil stepmother, a trope across all societies.
Of course. And we're going to mention The Uninvited later and how much it was not like this movie. This movie's based on a folk tale, which I read. It's on Wikipedia. And this movie's nothing like the folk tale.
So Shawn has been telling me about it. So only Shawn knows how the uninvited mucks around with this. I was
Only
going
I know.
in the world. Only Shawn knows. I was going to watch it, and I got up early today so I could watch it. Obviously not at a great time because I didn't get home until 2 last night. But I got up and I started downloading it, and iTunes was just like, I'm gonna download it like 5 kilobytes a minute, and I'm like, oh,
That's the most horrifying thing of all.
that is horrifying, Shawn. So I've already paid for it. I'm going to watch it. I've heard good things about it. That it's although I think that the what Shawn will spoil will make me hate it, but I've heard that it's not a bad horror movie. So let's move on to A Tale of Two Sisters. So we'll move back to here so we can gush a little bit more on it. I just love this movie so much. I mean it is very scary. But it's like in a lot of the negative ways that Tree of Life is being talked about, I think that frequently in this movie you could just like pause it and it's like, wow, that's very interesting how they, how that shot is framed, or how the light is coming in from one direction, the shadows in the other.
Yeah,
I just
it's definitely a beautiful movie.
absolutely beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and also scary. So do we want to get to? Do you want to like round up the plot, like what actually happens in Tale of Two Sisters, so you can talk about whatever they mucked around with?
Yeah. Do we want to spoil everything?
Should we spoil it?
Well, we gave everyone a warning,
Yeah. You
and
probably
here's your final warning.
spoilers,
Spoilers from here on.
right? I don't think that if Uninvited really fundamentally changed a lot about it, we probably can't talk about how they changed it without spoiling this. So
Right.
okay, so like crazy stuff is going on in this house.
Yeah,
right?
there's a lot of like subjective horror. Like you're seeing what another character is seeing, which is probably not real. Which is in fact not real.
Which is in fact not real, right? Like we don't need to get into the details of it because we can spoil like what happens without spoiling the scares. So if you haven't seen it, you can still be scared by.
Yeah, you should see the scares.
Should see the scares. I gave one of them away with the sink, but you'll still probably
The trailer gives that one away, so it's okay.
Trailer gives that one away. But yes, it's like this doesn't seem real, and in fact, it's not. It's not real. Well, most of it is not real.
Right.
So
The girl who we've been following is Sumi.
Sumi, yeah.
Sumi was in the psych ward because her mother died
Yes.
and her sister died.
Yes.
And when you learn that her sister died, that's kind of confusing because up to that point, you've been seeing her sister.
Yes, they've been like holding hands and going places, and she's been talking about her sister.
To her father in the
Yes.
present tense, and
Yes.
her sister's dead.
Right. Well, she like, and then things start kind of like falling apart after like she realizes this is true, and she thinks that it's the stepmom
Right,
who killed her.
right.
Like right then, like she
She's
drags a
seeing these
bag.
horrible images of some kind of grisly murder, and she imagines that the stepmother did it.
Yes, but then, but it's not just that.
What exactly happened? There's a cabinet or a chest or something.
Yeah, like so to like give it all away. This all unfolds like the like most of the really scary stuff happens in the first half, and then the sort of like revelation stuff takes place like in waves in the second half. What we find out eventually that happened is that Sumi's mother was sick, and they had a nurse. They had like a
Terminally ill.
terminally ill, and they had like a hospice nurse who
Right.
began a romantic relationship with the father while the mother was not yet dead.
Whoops.
Whoops! Don't do that, folks. So Sumi had
Reservations.
she was like, "Hey, Dad, maybe don't like screw around with the nurse while Mom is still alive."
Right.
And not quite dead. So there's just like a lot of tension in the house. This is happening. This happened way like well before what we're seeing right now, and so they get into an argument. Sumi and what's I don't even know what the
The
stuff.
nurse is Yu June.
Yeah, they get into an argument, and while this is happening, Su Yan is how does this I don't even I can't even remember how this takes place, but she gets trapped under a wardrobe,
Yeah.
and no one
It's
can
somehow fallen on top of her.
right, and no one can hear her because they're all like because of all the tension in the house, like they're all arguing with each other and they're all like storming out, and this the nurse knows it happened.
Yes, she saw it and she walks
She
away.
does nothing.
She walks away and then she turns back.
Yeah, bitch.
She turns back to do something, and Sumi confronts her, and then she changes her mind.
Yes. She changes her mind because Sumi has an argument with her, basically saying like you're a horrible person. So what is the nurse's reaction? Like, oh, I'm a horrible person? Fine, I'll let your sister die.
Yes.
Yes.
And then Sumi walks out of the house, and she's at least somewhat, I would say she's at least somewhat responsible at that point.
Yep.
If she hadn't got all up in her future stepmother's face, her sister might be alive right now.
Yes. Um so Suyeon dies in pain and in horror, trying to get out from underneath this wardrobe. And basically the movie ends with us with a real with the realization that like this all like this all unfolded, and now we have you did you see session 9?
Yes, I did.
Like something sort of like that, it's like something has been going on this whole time that we weren't entirely aware of,
Right.
and then the movie ends with a really great scene of Sumi at the dock where she and her imaginary sister was sitting at the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
It's heartbreaking.
It's this film, when you boil it down to just everything it is, it does almost feel like a folktale, even if they did completely change the way that folktale goes, because it involves three brothers as well. But anyway, it's very poetic, and it has like philosophy, like about the way you treat people, and like the consequences of your actions, and all kinds of good takeaways from it.
Yeah, and one thing that we forgot to mention, that the stepmom wasn't there either. She's not living in that house anymore.
Right. She
She
was
was
imagining
imagining both
her
of
as
them.
well.
Yeah, she was imagining both of them or acting as both of them in some way, basically because of her mixed up feelings about her relationship in this.
Yeah, that little girl is screwed up.
Yeah, so she's messed up. So yeah, none of this happened, and the reason is because of her pain and the torture she's gone through, the mental torture she's gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Go watch it. It's good stuff. All right.
We hope you watched it before you spoiled it.
Yes.
Be
So
all the more powerful.
yes. So Shawn, how is The Uninvited different from this?
Okay. Well, first of all, they aged up the sisters.
Ah, so they're not
They
sex.
basically they made them teenagers.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like American like boyfriend girlfriend stuff. Like it seems like that's a more integral part of the movie. I think the main girl has a boyfriend.
Oh wow.
And that's like an important part of the story because I think the boyfriend dies at some point.
Oh. Okay. Well, yeah, they certainly had no. Okay.
So then the biggest basically there are things that are the same, like there's a live-in nurse and her mother's dead, and the biggest difference, and I think the part that changes everything, is the wardrobe, as it were, in the movie. It's not a wardrobe, it's something else.
Mm.
The girl, is responsible for it. And it not only does it kill her sister, but it kills her mother. She's trying to set a trap for the live-in nurse, and she accidentally kills her sister and her mother. And I think that destroys what was good about the original movie. Because then it's just vengeance or something. I don't think there's any poetry left in that. She still gets the same like disassociative disorder where she like thinks that these people still exist after they're dead, but it's her fault entirely in the remake.
Well, I don't approve of that at all.
I know. I hate that.
She killed her mom and her sister?
Yes. And as long as I have not seen the movie, but the Wikipedia page makes it pretty clear that that's what happens. And unless this is wrong, that's what happens.
Oh, I will confirm this tonight.
And I don't like that. I really like how complicated it was in the original
Yes.
movie. It wasn't anyone's fault. There were certain people that you could say like if they had acted a certain way, things could have come out differently. But in the American version, there's no gray area at all. She is responsible for the thing that killed her mother and her sister.
Yes.
Isn't that stupid?
Ah, yeah, and like one of the big things about A Tale of Two Sisters is that the mom was going to like it is that whole like no one was it was nobody's fault. Like the mom was going to die. Like she and then the father and the nurse made a mistake and Soo Yun finds her mom in the wardrobe because she hung herself.
That's right.
That's how it happened. She had hung herself in there and it falls on her. So she not only dies screaming, but with her dead mother on
Under
her.
the body of her dead mother.
Yeah. And her mother hangs herself. I don't think it's made clear, but I think it's mostly because like she wants to die and get out of this horrible situation.
Right. And
Right?
again, she was going to die.
But she was going to die. Anyway,
It's not like she killed herself because of the affair that had started.
right, it was a chain of complicated events. The mother having a terminal illness, the father being, someone weak, the nurse being, complicit in it, the arguments that the family was having, all of that boiled up to get to where we are. As opposed to like, what, I don't like this woman, I'm gonna like whatever axe her or something, like knock her off because she's sleeping with my dad.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
And the suicide, I think it helps to understand that in Asian culture that I don't think people would have seen that movie and been like, what a shameful way to get out of it, killing herself.
No.
I think in Asian culture they would be like, oh, that was her way that was her way out.
Yeah, exactly. And not just like she's dying, but also like she's like her husband is cheating on her with whatever. I don't like that. Uninvited. Ah,
Yeah. Yeah.
ruined it. Americans really know how to ruin good things.
Except the ring, apparently.
Except the ring. Except the ring. Oh,
And you told me they're making a Ring 3?
they're making a Ring 3. So they made a Ring 2, which was bad. Don't see it.
I saw it in the theater and I can't remember much about it. I remember the kid in the bathtub with the water all over the ceiling, and I remember what did we decide it was? Deer?
Yeah, deer.
CGI deer.
CGI deer. Scary CGI deer attack their car.
Yeah, I wish they had spent a little bit more time or money on that.
Well, anyway, they're making a Ring 3. It's going to be in 3D, and it's going to focus more on teenagers and their problems.
Which is Naomi Watts supposed to be in it?
No, she's not doing
Good.
it. Good.
She made the smart decision to get out of that. But you know what other third movie is coming out this month?
This month,
Paranormal Activity.
3. I didn't think that there was any way that they could pull it off because I'm like, well, where are they going to go?
Well, I think they did what every horror franchise does. They go backwards and try to explain.
Yeah, because so if you don't know the story of Paranormal Activity and Paranormal Activity 2, it's actually a little bit complicated because Paranormal Activity 2 goes back, but in the end, it actually is basically taking place at the same time as Paranormal Activity, and it ends at the same time.
That freaking blew my mind.
Right, it ends at the same time and actually a little bit after Paranormal Activity. It was great.
I loved Paranormal Activity. I saw it in a crowded theater.
Me
It
too.
was like the perfect horror experience. And then I heard they were making a sequel, and I was like, okay, I'll reserve my thoughts on that. I hope that they can pull it off. And I saw that in a crowded theater, and damn it, they did such a good job. They made me jump. I don't jump.
Yeah.
I jumped when when all the kitchen cabinets blew open at the same time.
Oh my god, I know
I
that was
was
good.
not prepared for that.
That was a good gag. They've had a lot of good gags in there. I think the most like nerve wracking ones all were in Paranormal Activity. Like all the subtle stuff that happens. Like the
There's lots of stuff that you can just miss.
yeah, like like the bed sheet moved up a little bit, or why did that happen?
At one point, Katie's on screen, and you see like right before the cut, you see like what would be the breath of something beside her moves her hair,
Mm-hmm.
and then it immediately cuts. And if you weren't paying attention to that little part of the screen right there, you wouldn't have seen that.
Yeah, and one of they reused this in Paranormal Activity 2, but it's still a good it's a good gag. One of the ones that really freaked me out was when things are getting really bad and Katie gets yanked out of the bed and pulled down the hall.
That's always a cool effect.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that was scary. I believe it's been a long time since I've seen Paranormal Activity. That's on Netflix, by the way. I believe the first one is, so check it out if you haven't seen it. I think she gets pulled into a lit room that the light goes out.
But yeah,
Never
3 is
good.
coming out. I saw the trailer before I saw the movie Drive, which was also excellent, by the way.
Oh, awesome, awesome. I saw the trailer online, and yes, they go back, but they're not just going back like, let's go back another 3 weeks. They're going back to the 80s.
Yeah, they decided like Paranormal Activity 2, you learn the story of Katie's sister. So you learn that this is somehow tied to these these two sisters. And Paranormal Activity 3 is going back to 1988 when they were little girls.
Yes. And how might they incorporate this whole found footage nonsense?
Right.
Well, JVC made this awesome portable video camera that people loved during the 80s, and they filmed all sorts of nonsense. And that's a great hook, I think, because I was like, yeah, that's true. How many home movies do people have who, like more affluent people who had that kind of camera?
My parents rented one.
Uh huh.
They have footage of me as a probably 2 or 3 year old
Mm hmm.
on one of those that they rented.
Yeah. Yeah. The trailer's got a good gag,
Yes, it does.
good mirror gag. Check it out.
And we'll
Well,
probably check it out by the end of the month if we have time.
yes,
It comes out on the 21st.
we're gonna try and roll that in. Uh, the the sort of quasi theme of this podcast was Asian horror. At least we talk a little bit about that. So we got another horror movie that we're gonna watch. So if you're keeping up with us, more homework. This one, I'm not gonna lie to you and say it's streaming on Netflix.
No, it is not.
You
It
can
is definitely
only
not.
you can only get this on iTunes, and it is Red State.
I think it might be available on some video on demand services like Comcast and stuff. I think you can find it in there,
Yeah, I think that's true.
but it is definitely on iTunes.
Is definitely on iTunes. That is where I will be getting it. Um, it's got a pretty great cast and noted horror movie director
Right.
Kevin Smith.
If you're too young to know who Kevin Smith is he's he's hardly a director. He's a writer. And he happened to direct some movies that he would not call movies. He's
Yeah.
very embarrassed at this point by his film career because he doesn't think he's a good filmmaker. But he made all these talky movies just full of dialogue with two characters called Jay and Silent Bob. That's what ties them together. And then it's basically just the antics of 20 somethings and like dealing with crappy jobs and stuff. But he decided to retire from filmmaking, and before he retired, he would make two more movies. One is Red State, and then the other one is going to be a hockey movie because he loves hockey. But Red State is the movie he wanted to make as a tribute to some of his director friends, like Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. And from everything I've heard, I have not seen the film yet. From everything I heard, he really pulled it off.
I've heard great things about Red State. I don't. I think maybe like several thousand people have seen it total, right? It's had no distribution, or I think it had like a very limited like art house distribution, and everything else has been online or
It is in theaters in England right now.
interesting, interesting. Um, well, uh, let's just say it's a horror movie, and it yeah, it's in homage or with head nods toward those directors, and it's also looking at fundamentalist religion in America.
It's specifically looking at a group called the Westboro Baptist Church. They're not called that in the movie, but I mean, he's made it no secret that that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, so think about that, add a horror movie element, and
It is a horror movie. I
I
mean,
know,
that family is I
or
don't even
horror.
want to get
Yeah,
into
it's
it.
true. This is this is I'm excited to see this. I'm very excited to see this. So the theme of next week-ish will be new horror movies or like movies from this year. Um, and that's why we're gonna kind of try and loop in Paranormal Activity 3 a little bit in the discussion. So go watch Red State.
And be scared of the fundamentalists.
Yeah,
You're
they're
the one living in the South. You got to be more careful than I do.
yeah, I know. Yeah, hey, I just saw Red State on iTunes. What the hell is iTunes?
And you run away screaming.
Get me back to Washington D.C. Take this thing back to Baltimore. All right. Well, that's a good way to end a podcast.
Yep, I think we got it all. If you're going to tweet about the podcast, please use the hashtag SCHP.
I
If you want to write a longer form response, Carter reads our email.
do.
It's Shawn and Carter, all one word, at gmail.com.
Yes. And if you're seeing this on YouTube and you're not subscribed to us on iTunes,
Link
uh,
is in the info.
link in the info. Check it out. Make sure you give us a rating on iTunes so people outside of Sean's loyal fan base might be able to find us in podcast land.
And that's it. Shawn and Carter had a podcast. I am Shawn.
I'm Carter.